Hey everyone, welcome back to Gen X Flashback, where we dig into all things that made the 70s and 80s cool. Today we're talking cars. Remember those rides you dreamed of when you were a kid? The ones that made you imagine you were cruising down the highway with the windows down and the music blaring? Well, we're about to take a look at 10 cars every Gen Xer wanted in their garage back in the day. Now, this countdown is in no particular order, because they are all awesome rides. But feel free to let us know in the comments what your favorite was, especially if we've missed it. Also stick around, because if you wait till the end of the video, you'll see the honorable mentions we have as well. You know, like the AMC Gremlin. Psych. So let's hit the road and see which of your dream cars made the cut. You're watching Gen X Flashback. Number 1, Pontiac Firebird Trans Am. First up on the list is the Pontiac Firebird Trans Am. This car was the epitome of cool in the 80s. Now, thanks to Smokey and the Bandit back in the 70s, it became the symbol of rebellion, speed, and everything Gen X loved. And it only got cooler in the 80s with the sleek redesign. I mean, who didn't want their own kit? With its V8 engine and those signature T-tops, this thing was built to turn heads. Back then, you could buy one for about $7,000, which is just under $20,000 when it's adjusted for inflation. And you know what? I still think it's worth it. Number 2, the Chevy Camaro IROC Z. Next on the list, the Chevy Camaro IROC Z. If you wanted to look tough, this was the car. With its aggressive stance, powerful V8, and that amazing lift-up louver hood. Everybody knew what you had when they saw this car, because it had IROC written all over it. This muscle car wasn't just for show either, it had performance to back it up. In the 80s, you could pick up one of these for around $11,000. Now today, that's going to be roughly $30,000. Number 3, the Ford Mustang GT. Of course, the Mustang GT had to be here. The Mustang had been around for a while, but in the 80s, it got a makeover that made it a dream car for so many of us. With the 5-liter V8 engine, the car was built for speed and style. Burnouts, anyone? Back in the day, the Mustang GT cost about $9,500, which is around $26,000 today, which is a pretty good deal for any car. Number 4, the Buick Grand National. This was like Darth Vader in a car. Now this one might come as a surprise to some of you, but if you knew the history behind the Grand National, especially the Buick Grand National GNX, this was a car that could beat the Corvette in a quarter mile, if you can believe that, with a turbocharged V6 no less. It definitely didn't look like your typical muscle car, which made it even cooler. In the 80s, it sold for around $13,000, and that's about $34,000 in today's money. Not bad for one of the fastest cars of the era. Number 5, the Nissan 300ZX. Now, we were thinking about the Datsun 280ZX, but decided that the Nissan 300ZX was just solidly in the 80s, as to where the 280Z kind of came in from the 70s. Hailing from the land of the rising sun, this Japanese sports car really started gaining popularity in the 80s. The 300ZX launched in 1983, had a really sleek design, a bunch of turbo options, super handling, and it was a real hit. This beauty cost around $18,000 when it first came out. In today's money, that's $46,000. Number 6, the Chevy Corvette C4. Now let's talk about the Chevrolet Corvette, specifically the C4 generation. This car was the ultimate sports car in the 80s. With improved tech, better performance, and signature styling and handling, it was the car many of us dreamed of owning. But that price tag back then was a steep $25,000, which is around $64,000 today. But it was a true American icon. Number 7, the Toyota Supra. Going back to the Japanese import list, the Toyota Supra was another Japanese sports car that turned heads. It was sleek, fast, and incredibly reliable. In the late 80s, it built its reputation as a performance powerhouse, and it became a favorite for anyone into speed and tuning. In the 80s, this Supra would have cost you around $20,000, and that's about $50,000 today. Number 8, the Mazda RX-7. Now, I had a friend that had one of these, and they were amazing. What a cool looking car. It was maybe a little more than a 2-seater, but it really were like in a Corvette. You kind of rolled around in that back hatch, if you know what I mean. And even though it had amazing styling and handling, the thing that made it stand out was its rotary engine. It was one of the few that used this design. It had a high revving, unique character and a unique exhaust note. a lot of fun. Plus, it was lightweight, nimble, and it handled like a true sports car. Back in the day, the RX-7 was about $13,000, which would translate to $33,000 today. Number 9, the Volkswagen GTI. If you were more into compact cars with a lot of personality, the Volkswagen GTI was the perfect option for you. It was fun, fast, and practical. Basically, the original hot hatch with its peppy engine and great handling. The GTI was a blast to drive and had a lot of power thanks to a turbo under the hood. Back in the 80s, you could get one of these for about $8,000, which would be about $21,000 today. I always saw this one as kind of the preppy car, but it was a lot of fun to drive. Now, before we mention the last one in the main 10, we're going to shift gears and talk about the honorable mentions, the cars that almost made this list, and maybe you had them, or hey, maybe you'll throw rocks at me because I didn't include them in the main list. Here we go. Honorable mention number 1, Ford Thunderbird Turbo Coupe. It was luxury and performance all the way, and it was related to this cousin car, the number 2 honorable mention, the Mercury Cougar XR7. I mean, they were almost identical cars except for this notch in the back windshield. Number 3 honorable mention, the Honda Prelude. Now, this was another fun car to drive, although it didn't quite have the power of the Supra, the twin-turbo 300ZX, or the RX-7. Still, there were a lot of these around. Number 4 honorable mention was the Olds 442. It's a great-looking car, but it didn't quite meet the main list because it lacked a lot of the horsepower that the muscle car version from the 70s had made it famous for. And finally, another cousin car to the 442 and the Buick Grand National, the Chevrolet Monte Carlo SS. It was NASCAR-inspired performance that turned heads on the street. I bet you remember this color though, a real dark chocolate. You never saw him really in black, you saw him in this color, or a really cool blue. Back to our main list. Finally, number 10, the Dodge Daytona Turbo Z. Rounding out our list is the Dodge Daytona Turbo Z. Dodge wasn't messing around in the 80s, and the Daytona was proof. It had a turbocharged engine and a futuristic wedged look, making it really stand out on the streets. The car was priced around $11,000 in the 80s, which would be pretty close to $29,000 today. Not a bad deal for a car that looked like it was from the future. And there you have it, folks. 10 of the most wanted cars from the 80s, plus a few honorable mentions. Whether you dreamed of flying down the highway in a Firebird or taking tight corners in a Supra, these cars fueled the imaginations of an entire generation. Now, I want to hear from you. Which of these cars was your dream ride, or did we just totally miss several that were on your favorite list? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to hit the like button, and please subscribe. We're a young channel and we're growing fast, and we love being able to take you down memory lane. Until next time, keep cruising. Thanks for watching, and God bless.